Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Our fall economic statement has two objectives. The first is to continue to support the middle class at a time when some prices are still high and mortgage renewals are looming. That is why we are making generational changes to competition law in Canada, including by cracking down on predatory pricing and other tactics that big corporations use to raise costs for Canadians. This is new, significant, concrete action that will help stabilize prices and provide more choice for Canadians. We're cracking down on junk fees that Canadians are saddled with every day, and an investigation will soon be launched into the international roaming charges that drive up Canadians' phone bills. We're lifting the GST and HST on counseling and psychotherapy services so that Canadians can receive the support they need. We're extending employment insurance to parents who adopt and are introducing a new leave for federally regulated workers who suffer the painful loss of a child through miscarriage. De plus, pour protéger les Canadiennes et Canadiens qui ont du mal à rembourser leurs prêts hypothécaires en cette période de hausse des taux d'intérêt, j'annonce aujourd'hui la nouvelle charte hypothécaire canadienne. La charte hypothécaire canadienne détaille les mesures d'allègement hypothécaire adaptées que les Canadiennes et les Canadiens peuvent s'attendre de leur banque s'ils sont en difficulté financière. Notre objectif est d'aider les Canadiennes et les Canadiens à traverser une période extrêmement difficile. Nous le faisons en voyant à ceux qu'ils déposent de l'aide dont ils ont besoin pour payer leur hypothèque et conserver leur logement lorsqu'ils renouvellent leur prêt à un moment où les taux d'intérêt sont plus élevés. Et nous sommes déterminés à prendre d'autres mesures s'il y a lieu. Notre deuxième objectif est tout aussi urgent. Nous avons mis en place des initiatives importantes cet automne. Et j'annonce aujourd'hui, dans le cadre de notre plan économique, de nouvelles mesures pour construire des milliers et des milliers de nouveaux logements d'un bout à l'autre du pays et pour les construire plus rapidement. Nous débloquons des milliards de dollars de nouveaux fonds qui serviront à soutenir la construction de nouveaux logements pour les Canadiennes et les Canadiens. Nous soutenons les organismes du logement public, coopératifs et sans but lucratif. Nous contribuerons à réduire le fardeau administratif qui empêche les travailleurs de la construction de se déplacer à travers le pays pour construire des maisons. Et nous ferons venir au Canada un plus grand nombre d'ouvriers qualifiés dont notre secteur de la construction a besoin. Puis, nous allons sévir contre les locations à court terme affichées sur des sites comme Airbnb et Vrbo. Ces entreprises empêchent un trop grand nombre de logements d'être disponibles pour nos communautés et les villes de l'ensemble du pays. And that is just what we are doing today. Our government will keep working day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year to build more homes for Canadians. The foundation of our fall economic statement is our responsible fiscal plan. In the face of global inflation, our government has reduced the deficit faster than any other country in the G7. L'inflation a diminué, passant de 8,1% l'année dernière à 3,1%. Nous évitons d'alimenter l'inflation en prenant bien soin d'investir dans les priorités que les Canadiens et les Canadiens ont aujourd'hui et dans la croissance de demain qui garantira la viabilité de nos finances. Le Canada maintient le plus faible déficit et le plus faible ratio de la dette PIB du G7. Et les nouvelles réductions de dépenses gouvernementales prévues dans cet énoncé économique de l'automne s'ajoutent aux compressions de 15 milliards de dollars dans la fonction publique qui ont déjà été annoncées au printemps. Nous voyons à ce que les finances du Canada restent viables parce que, de cette façon, nous pourrons continuer d'investir dans les Canadiens et les Canadiens pendant les années à venir. Merci beaucoup et je serai maintenant prête à répondre à vos questions.
Alors, nous passons maintenant à la période de questions. Ce sera une question et une question en suivi. Veuillez juste noter votre nom et votre média. We're now moving to the question and answer portion. It'll be one question, one follow-up. Please just state your name and your outlet.
I'll go at number one. Hi, Minister Chrystia Freeland, CBC. Good to see you.
Hi, Chris. Good to see you, too.
You too. I'm asking this question for all the broadcasters here who are filing at 4 o'clock to push out radio and TV stories. Could you answer in both languages, please? The $15 billion in rental housing that you are announcing, how will that help Canadians, please?
That will help Canadians by supporting the construction of 30,000 more rental apartments. Pretty good.
Français le même, peut-être?
Oh, OK, en français, je m'excuse. Alors, on comprend l'importance de construire des nouveaux logements. Et pour cette raison, on a mis dans le budget une mesure de 15 milliards de dollars de financement pour la construction d'appartements qui va financer 30 000 de nouveaux appartements. And let me just say, our government really understands that housing is an urgent concern of Canadians. And housing is so connected to affordability for Canadians. And that is why our focus is supply, supply, supply. Since September alone, we have supported the construction of 100,000 new units, and you see a continued relentless effort here in this fall economic statement. You see $15 billion in financing for the construction of 30,000 apartments. You see $100 billion for investment directly in affordable housing. You see additional support for co-ops. You see a crackdown on short-term rental on Airbnb, which will make up to 30,000 homes available for people to rent long-term. Alors, on vraiment comprend l'importance du logement pour les Canadiens. On est focusé sur ça et on continue de faire des investissements ciblés qui vont créer plus de logements pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes.
In your fiscal update, there is a downside scenario. And is that downside scenario realistically pessimistic?
We always present in all of our economic statements a downside scenario and an upside scenario. And that's important because it's important to test Canada's financial track against the different possibilities in the global economy. That is what we have done in this fall economic statement. I think the important message for Canadians is, yes, this is a time of a lot of uncertainty in the global economy. And in this time of uncertainty, there is no country better positioned than Canada to thrive. On présente toujours dans les énoncés économiques de l'OTAN et dans le budget, les scénarios plus pessimistes et les scénarios plus optimistes. On l'a fait aujourd'hui et c'est important parce que c'est important de démontrer que notre économie, que nos finances sont viables dans toutes les situations. Et c'est le cas aujourd'hui. Je pense que le message le plus important pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes aujourd'hui, c'est ça. On comprend que la situation mondiale est pleine d'incertitudes aujourd'hui au niveau macroéconomique. Mais si on regarde tous les pays du monde, le Canada est le mieux positionné de pas seulement survivre, mais de vraiment avoir beaucoup de bons emplois et de croissance économique. Merci.
Good afternoon, Minister. David Aiken, Global News.
Hi, David.
Hello. Coming back to that $15 billion and all that new housing, of course, that money is not going to be in the system until fiscal 26. The press release talks about, and I think you'll mention this in your speech in the House, building more homes faster. I think we get the more. Can you explain the faster? How does today's initiatives solve today's housing supply crisis?
We have a multi-part effort that began when we formed government, that is ongoing today and is going to continue tomorrow to build more homes faster. And this fall economic statement continues that intense, focused effort. To name just a few of the measures we have here, we have a significant investment to provide financing for construction of new rental property. We have an investment in affordable housing. We have an investment in co-ops. And we have a really strong, unprecedented measure to make apartments currently used as Airbnbs, as short-term rentals, available for Canadians to live in right now. That is a lot of stuff. How will that drive supply right now? Well, David, last week I was in Toronto, very close to my own riding, at an announcement of construction that was happening because of the existing rental construction financing initiative. It was part of an announcement of 2,600 new apartments that are being built around Toronto because of existing RCFI funding. And what the builders who were doing that work said to me is, this is a great program. It has created a set of incentives that is making us choose to build rental rather than build condos because you have changed the math. But they said to me, we know that the program is running out of money. So could you please top it up so we know there's going to be more money to build more rentals? That is exactly what we're doing with this fall economic statement.
Thank you. And on the charter, the Canada Mortgage Charter, it is a voluntary. We're asking financial institutions to engage in some of these issues. Is voluntary good enough? Do you have some indication from our financial institutions that they'll respect this charter? Should it be mandatory? Can you speak to that charter and its take-up by financial institutions?
Yeah, thank you for the question. From my perspective, the charter is one of the most important things that we're putting forward today, because I really recognize that with interest rates having gone up very quickly, there are many, many Canadians who are concerned about their mortgages going up. They are concerned about being able to afford to stay in their own homes. And what we're saying today is, we understand that this is a challenging situation, and we are here to help. The mortgage charter includes some really important measures for Canadians. What it says is you can expect your financial institution to offer you a longer amortization period. That might mean that you pay less every month. If you have an insured mortgage, you can transfer to another financial institution without requalifying. And Choice puts someone who has a mortgage in a stronger position. So these are meaningful measures. The fact that they are published in a government document, in one of the two most serious documents we have, the Fall Economic Statement, is a very significant message to Canadians, and it is a significant message to Canadian financial institutions.
Hi, Minister. David Reevely from The Logic. So following up on what you were just saying about the mortgage charter, a whole lot of the things you listed under your first heading are things other people are going to need to do. Sort of legislative and regulatory moves rather than things the government itself is going to do. How constrained do you feel by a lack of fiscal firepower at this point?
You know, probably the single biggest challenge right now is finding the balance between making the necessary investments in Canada and Canadians and ensuring that our economic plan is a fiscally responsible plan. We know we have to find that balance, and we have found that balance in the document we're publishing today, because we know Canadians need investments. They need investments in housing. We are delivering that. Canadians need investments in an economic plan, and we are delivering that. And let me just point out, the investments that we are making in Canada's industrial transformation are attracting investors into Canada. One of the things I'm going to be talking about later today, which we highlight in the Fall Economic Statement, is according to the OECD, in the first 6 months of this year, Canada was attracted the third highest level of foreign direct investment of any country in the world in the first 6 months of this year. And that is the total sum of investment. On a per capita basis, Canada attracted more foreign direct investment in the first 6 months of this year than any other country in the G7. And to me, that speaks to how great Canadians are, how great Canada is, and that our economic plan is working. So it's a great question, David. And we do need to find a balance between making the investments that Canadians need right now, doing it in a fiscally responsible way. That's the balance that we struck today.
And then when it comes to competition reform and some of the sort of industrial policy type things you've announced, like the contracts for difference, pulling out of the Canada Growth Fund and whatnot, how much of that is driven by a need to keep up with what the United States is doing, particularly the speed with which the IRA is moving there?
The current Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, when he was still a humble finance minister, at a meeting I was at with him, compared the transition that the world is going through right now to the Industrial Revolution itself. He said what's happening now is bigger than anything the world has gone through since the Industrial Revolution. I really agree with that. And the reality for the whole world, but especially for Canada, because we live right next door to the United States and we have a free trade agreement with the United States, is America has put a huge amount of money on the table to fund that industrial transformation. I want Canadians to know that there is no country in the world that is as competitive with the U.S. in attracting money for that transition as Canada. We are in the race, and we are committed to owning the podium. And that is what you saw in the budget in the spring, and that is what you see in this economic update. You see it in our investment tax credits. You see it in the Canada Growth Fund. And it is delivering results. And, let me just also say, it's not, the most important results for me are, for sure, the numbers in the Fall Economic Statement. I was so happy when I saw those OECD numbers because that was proof that our plan is working. But the most important thing is this is about good jobs for Canadians. And if you have a good job, you have a good life. We have now in Canada more than 1 million more people working than we had before the pandemic. Wages have been rising faster than inflation for the past 9 months. So this is a plan to attract investment. It is a plan for the economic transformation, for the industrial transformation. Most of all, it is a plan for good jobs for Canadians today and tomorrow.
Next question, prochaine question.
Alex Ballingal, Toronto Star.
Hi, Alex.
Hi. Given the
That
fiscal...
was a kind of sad hi.
Oh, well, I'm feeling pretty good, you know.
Okay, good.
I'm not sad. But given the given the fiscal track that you've outlined in this update, can the federal government afford to create the single-payer public pharmacare program that the NDP wants?
So when it comes to pharmacare, my colleague Mark Holland is working hard on that issue, and he is having constructive conversations in line with our written SACA commitments. I think it's also worth pointing out that our government has been making historic investments in the health of Canadians. It was just at the beginning of this year that we made an unprecedented $200 billion investment in healthcare. And we are continuing to deliver, as you see in this fall economic statement, dental care for Canadians. That is another transformational investment. When I travel around the country, a lot of people raise that with me. Often older people who maybe like cover their mouth with their hand while they're talking. And they'll talk about how they're glad that they are no longer living in a country where you can tell how much someone makes by their smile. That's something that is really important. It is expensive. It is changing the lives of Canadians, and we're delivering it.
But on pharmacare, the document today talks about maintaining deficits that are below 1% of GDP, declining track of debt to GDP ratio. Can Canada actually afford to do a single-payer universal pharmacare program without blowing all that out of the water?
As I said, Mark Holland is working hard on this issue, and we are committed to fulfilling our SACA commitments, as we have been doing. We've been clear throughout, and are clear again in this document, that we believe we need to have an economic plan which invests in Canadians in a fiscally responsible way. That's what we're doing today. That's what we're going to continue to do.
And just because I know many of you need to get to Parliament, we'll have time for one last question. Une dernière question en raison du temps.
Bonjour, Raymond Filion de TVA. On remarque que dans le document
Bonjour,
aujourd'hui que la dette coûte de plus en plus cher. Est-ce que c'est en train de devenir un boulet pour le gouvernement, pour les Canadiens?
On comprend l'importance d'investir dans les Canadiens et Canadiennes, d'investir dans l'économie canadienne. Et on est fiers que nos investissements sont créés une situation attirante pour les investisseurs étrangers. Et on comprend qu'on doit investir dans la vie quotidienne des Canadiens et Canadiennes, surtout avec les investissements dans le logement qu'on continue à faire dans cette énoncé économique de l'automne. Et la chose qui permet au gouvernement de faire des investissements essentiels dans les Canadiens et Canadiennes, c'est de faire ces investissements dans une manière responsable du côté fiscal. C'est ce qu'on fait ici. Vous avez raison que la réalité est que les taux d'intérêt sont plus élevés. Et dans notre plan responsable du côté fiscal, ça inclut le coût de notre plan inclut le coût de la dette pour la fédérale. L'autre chose que je pourrais ajouter, c'est que le Canada maintient le code de crédit AAA. C'est une chose très importante. Et grâce à notre code de crédit AAA, le coût de la dette canadienne est moins élevé que, par exemple, la dette des États-Unis.
Au niveau du logement, vous parlez de 100 000 logements que le gouvernement canadien a aidé à financer depuis le début de l'automne. Or, la SCHL dit qu'il faudra construire des millions et des millions de logements additionnels d'ici 2030 pour enrayer la crise du logement. Est-ce qu'on est en voie de... Donc, si je comprends bien, là, ce que vous annoncez encore aujourd'hui, c'est seulement une goutte dans l'océan. Est-ce que ça veut dire qu'on en a pour des années encore, très longtemps, à vivre avec la crise du logement?
Non, pas du tout. Ce qu'on a dit, c'est qu'on a déjà fait beaucoup des investissements dans le logement. On fait aujourd'hui beaucoup des investissements dans le logement partout au pays. Et dans cet énoncé économique de l'OTAN, on va les investissements additionnels dans le logement et on est absolument convaincu qu'on doit et on va continuer de faire des investissements dans le logement parce que je suis d'accord avec votre question. On comprend que c'est un enjeu urgent pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes.
OK. Ceci met fin à la conférence de presse de today's press conference.
Okay, I'm sorry, Campbell. Next time. I can't be late for Parliament. Merci beaucoup.